Hey guys, my name is Alana. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Make sure you click that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more. So for today's video, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. So this morning actually, I was just listening to Stephen Furtick's latest message. If you don't know who Stephen Furtick is, he's like an American preacher. And I really like him because his messages are always like really practical and just relatable to like the times that we live in now. So if you want to check him out, make sure you do. He's on YouTube and podcast app and all that. But I was listening to a message this morning and I just actually opened the podcast thing and I just clicked on like a random one. It must have been like the newest message, I'm not sure, but like I just literally just clicked on a random one. And I was like, okay, it was called The Pressure to Perform. And I just clicked on it and I started listening to it, and I just finished it like a while ago. And I was just listening to it while I was like cleaning up and stuff. And it was just such a good message. It actually really impacted me. And I just wanted to share some of the stuff off it because I thought it was like really interesting, and it's very, very relatable, especially to people who are like a lot younger now, like with social media and stuff. So yeah, that's what I was going to be talking about today. The whole message was kind of just about like how we're always trying to perform and we're always trying to be like a public figure. You know, these days it's like everyone's goal is to be like a public figure, to be noticed, to be a celebrity, to have people looking up to you, and you're constantly having to try to perform to prove to other people that you're good enough and to prove to other people that you can do it. Because really, if you think about it, if you're trying to prove to people that you're good enough in that, it means that you don't believe that you're good enough. Like deep down, you don't believe that you're good enough. You don't believe that you actually you are enough. And I think nowadays, especially with like social media and stuff, even with social media, you're always trying to like, I'm talking about myself and other people, like we're always trying to like perform and like get other people's attention, and how many likes can I get, and which posts perform better. Like, you know, like when you have a business and stuff, you're always trying to figure out like which post perform better with YouTube, like which video got the highest likes, and what can I do to keep people satisfied. And you're always trying to please other people. And in the end, you really can't please everybody, because there's always going to be people who aren't happy with what you're doing. There's always going to be people who disagree. There's always going to be people who, you know, just don't like what you're doing. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, but we do take it so personally. And we just want everyone to like us. And I think we kind of have to take that step back and say, what is the point of this? Like, why am I feeling the need to perform? Why do I feel like I need to compete with other people? And it's crazy because we're all trying to compete against each other, and we're all trying to impress other people. And I feel like nowadays as well, and it can happen in every stage of life, whether you're a younger person, an older person, a teenager, like it doesn't matter. We're always trying to like put ourselves out there and show that, like kind of put on a persona, kind of like, you know, social media, you can come across as almost quite fake, you know, compared to what's going on in your personal life. And we kind of think, well, if people really knew who I was, they wouldn't like me. If people really knew what type of person I am, like they wouldn't want to be friends with me, and just things like that. And the whole thing is really based off identity and who you think you are. And I think it's so important, especially nowadays. Just, I suppose social media has made this a lot harder for like younger generations. I feel like this is probably the reason why we struggle with it so much, is because you're always looking at other people, and you're always like comparing yourself to other people, and you're always looking at other people and saying they're better than me, and how come my stuff isn't working, and I'm doing what they're doing and it's not working. Or, you know, like I personally struggle with this a lot with my business, because I feel like I'm doing all the right things, and I'm making, you know, products that I'm really proud of and stuff that I really like and that I, you know, really want to sell. And then I've tried to do everything right, take the right photos and do the right editing and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, sometimes you just feel like, what's wrong? Like people, why aren't people liking it? And you start to take it so personally when it really isn't. And in reality, you're actually against like a million other people and other businesses. And, you know, but I think we just put a lot of pressure on ourselves to perform. And it's just like with our culture, it's like a constant need to perform. a constant need to put yourself out there, a constant need to be better than everybody else. And we should just feel proud and happy and accomplished of just being us. Just being you as a person, you are enough. Like, just me being me, that is it. That's enough. I don't need to prove to people that I'm good enough. I shouldn't need to feel like I need to, do all these things and sacrifice my own sanity to, make myself seem better or more approved in other people's eyes. And if we look at it and why we're doing all this stuff, it's because deep down we don't believe we're good enough. And I think so many of us struggle with that because we're constantly looking at other people. And I think we can all relate to this in some level. I mean, some people struggle with this really bad. Personally, I've never struggled with giving into peer pressure. I've always been a very strong-willed, kind of stubborn person. So, nobody can really sway me, I suppose. Like, I'm not easily swayed or coerced or, I do my research on everything, and I'm a very think for myself type of person. I really think about things before, if I'm going to tell you my opinion, it's not just something I've randomly pulled out from the sky. Like, I've actually I've thought about this stuff in detail and looked at every angle of it. That's just the type of person I am. And I like to know why, and I can't just be satisfied with somebody's answer, And that has been a good thing in my life because it means that I'm not easily pushed into things, I'm not easily persuaded, my opinions don't change. And obviously this has its bad side because sometimes you're wrong and it can be hard to admit that you're wrong and listen to somebody else. But I'm just saying, like, personally, peer pressure hasn't really been a struggle, but I have found that with the age of social media, and this has really only been with my business and starting YouTube, that I've actually really struggled with comparing myself to other people. Like, when I go on Instagram, you scroll through and you look at other people who have better feed, they have better photos, probably edited. I really don't edit my photos because I just can't be bothered. I really don't like editing. It bores me. So I don't edit things, really. And so I look at other people and I'm like, well, why don't I look like that? Or how come my feed isn't good? Or I don't have that many followers, or whatever it is. And with YouTube and my business, there has been pressure that's been put on me. But the pressure hasn't come from other people, it's coming from myself. I'm the one putting the pressure on. And so many people nowadays, they change who they are and they sacrifice their beliefs and their morals and what they like and who they are as a person to meet the needs and satisfaction of other people, because they're so desperate for approval from other people, because maybe they haven't had people in their lives to say that they are enough. And I just want to say, like, regardless of your social status, regardless of your job, regardless of your career, regardless of your family's maybe cultural background or nationality, regardless of what business you have or career, you are enough. Just you on your own. You as a person, you were created because you're put here for a reason, And something really interesting that Stephen Furtick was saying was that if you have to push so hard to make something happen, it probably means that it's not supposed to happen. And you can take this whatever way you like, but personally, I found that if you try to push and push and push against a door that isn't supposed to be opened, you're not going to get anywhere. If it's a struggle and it's really not working, usually that is a strong sign that's saying that maybe this isn't the right time, or that this isn't the right thing for you. And I think so many of us, we just push and push and push and push, trying to, like, knock down that door of success, of approval, of whatever it is, whether it be a career or maybe a relationship that you really want, and it's just not working and it doesn't seem to be going the right way. Sometimes it means that you have to let that thing go because it isn't the right thing for you. And, like, I can give you an example of this. For me, personally, I've always struggled with making friends. It's just been a massive struggle in my life. Something I've always had a hard time with ever since I was very young, even as a kid. And I just had so many issues with it. And I think probably like last year and the year before, maybe like the last year of high school and coming out of high school, at the end of 2017, I just really gave up on making friends. And for a long time, I kept trying to push. I kept trying to make friends with people. I kept chasing after people and just kind of, like, I tried too hard, I think. Like, I was just so desperate for friends and I was so lonely. and I would try with different people who I thought could be a possible friend, and I would, you know, try to push it and just try to like try to get them to want to be around me. And I would, you know, even as a kid in primary school, because I was bullied so much, I felt like I would start to think there's something wrong with me and who I am, and it really affects your identity. And if you don't know who you are, and if you don't have a strong identity, it's gonna affect everything in your life, because you're never gonna believe you're good enough. And even for me, like my friends were always, the friends I did have were always super academic. I was definitely not academic. I've always struggled. And later on, I found out I did have learning difficulties, but I didn't know that. So I'd always just say, you know, I'd always put it on myself, well, people don't like me because I'm not smart enough, or people don't like me because the main thing that I've always struggled with is my personality. And I've always felt like it was boring because I am more of an introvert, and that people don't really like hanging out with quiet people. And I would just constantly pin these things on myself and give reasons to why other people didn't like me, or why other people were being mean, or why other people weren't being my friend. And I just kept trying to push and push to get friends, and they weren't the right people, and so it didn't work out. But I would take it as, oh, there's something personal going on, there's something, they don't like me, what's wrong with me? And at the beginning of the year, I think I've talked about this in another video, I'm not sure, but honestly, I randomly joined a social group that other people pushed me to go to. I didn't want to go at all. And I was kind of pushed to do it, and I just did it. And I was like, oh, whatever. Like, I seriously wasn't expecting anything to come out of it. I went, and I was like, people my age, usually nothing ever works out. They're always rude. They never have, you know, people my generation can be very selfish, self-centered. They don't really care. They don't have any social skills. And that's just what I found, okay? Not everyone's like that, but just a lot of people I've come into contact with have been like that. So I didn't have any expectations of this. I literally went, and I was like, this is probably going to turn out terrible, and I'm probably going to want to leave and come home crying. Because that's what happened in the past, right? And I just went. I had no expectations. I wasn't trying to push anything. I just went. And seriously, I came home that night so shocked, because I actually had fun. And I actually thought, wow, these people have a lot of stuff in common with me. It was like a group for my age group kind of thing. And I actually found some really nice people. And from that, without even trying, I actually made a really, really lovely best friend. And I was like thinking about this the other day, and I was like, you know, for years and years I kept trying to push things, and I kept trying to prove myself. I kept trying to prove myself to other people that I was a good enough friend, that I was a good enough person. And I was always trying to push that door down to make the friendships with other people. And I realized that I didn't do anything. It wasn't me. It was actually, you know, this is just my opinion. Everyone can have their own. But personally, I had been praying for a very long time for a good friend. And I had very specific prayer points. You know, I believe in praying specific prayers. If you want something from God, don't just pray, oh Lord, I want this. Go into detail, because He loves us and He wants us to have the best for us. And He wants to give us things, even if we don't need it, necessarily need it. He wants to give it to us because He loves us, you know. So I was praying really specifically for a friend who was interested in the same music as me, who liked, you know, the clothing style that I like, and who liked art, and who was creative, and who, you know, was able just to go out and have fun and do things, and someone who, you know, understood mental health issues and could kind of understand that, because that is a part of my life that is a struggle and people do need to understand. And I was just praying for all these things for a couple of months. I started praying specific prayers, because before that I'd kind of just prayed, oh Lord, give me a friend, and I was honestly very hope deferred. I thought this is never going to happen. I gave up, and I just stayed at home for like a year. Like literally, I just stayed at home. I wasn't doing anything to try to make friends, because I was like, you know what, this isn't working. Maybe I'm just never going to have friends. I'm just going to be alone, blah, blah, blah. And without even trying, you know, when I was least expecting it, God just brought this person, I believe, God brought this person into my life. And from the outside, maybe a lot of people in my life were thinking, wow, that wasn't what we expected. But for me, it was exactly what I was praying for. And so I knew when I met this person and I started to kind of become friends, I knew that this was a person who I was going to be friends with. And I've never had that with any other person. I've never really felt very connected with other people. I've always struggled to develop relationships with people. I think it's just trust trust has been broken so many times, and it can be hard, and I've always felt that need, like I had to prove myself. But with this particular person, I didn't feel that. I felt very I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. I didn't feel like, you know, I wasn't sitting there thinking, which usually happens to people. I'll sit there thinking, criticizing myself, like, oh, why did you say that? What, you know, what if they think I'm weird, blah, 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 like all these thoughts, but that didn't happen. And I was so confused because I was like, it just happened so easily. I was so shocked at how easy it was. Like, I didn't have to force anything. And a lot of the time I found with relationships, with me, I've always been the one who has to push things, and I've always had to kind of chase after people, and it's like you're trying to chase after people and trying to get people who really don't care about you. And now I have kind of like a rule, and this is just for my own mental sanity, that if somebody isn't caring about me and somebody isn't, there's no good reason for it, you know, like obviously sometimes people have circumstances that literally they can't help, that's fine. But if people are deliberately not caring, deliberately lying, they're not showing that they care about me, they're not even going out of their way to help me when I really need them. You know, I'm a pretty independent person because I've been on my own for so long. But, you know, like if that person really isn't there when I need them, and isn't just being a good friend, then they're gone. And I know that sounds a bit harsh, but it's because I've had so many people in my life who just really didn't care. And it does more damage than good. And I started to say to myself, well, I'd rather have no friends than have people who treat me wrong. And the reason why I'm bringing this whole friendship thing up is because a lot of the time, I feel like we push for relationships. It could be romantically, it could be, you know, just a friendship, or maybe with a family member. We keep trying to push down that door and saying, well, if I'm just good enough, they'll like me. If I'm just good enough, they'll love me. If I can just perform and show them and prove to the world or prove to them that I'm good enough. But like, why are we trying to prove that? It's because we want acceptance. Because everyone does. We all want to be accepted. That's how we were created. We were created to be around people, to be in communities. That's why we have families. That's why we have communities and stuff, because there is a need within us to have relationships. I was just thinking about, as I was listening to this message, and I was listening about how, you know, in the Bible, there is, it's in the New Testament, and Jesus, it's, you know, if you've heard of the story where Jesus multiplies the loaves of bread and like the fish and stuff, like he's going to preach to people, and there's a massive crowd, and they're all really hungry because they've been out there all day, and nobody has food. Cut a long story short, Jesus multiplies the bread and the whatever else is there, and he gives it to everyone. And then after they've eaten, he goes to like talk to them. But a lot of the people, they leave. And he's lost like a lot of his followers, okay? So if we're going to relate this to Instagram, let's call them followers. So he loses all of his like a lot of his followers. They were only there to get something from him. They didn't really want to listen to him. They didn't really care about him. So they left, and the disciples are left there, and it's just a few people. And, you know, Jesus has these like friends who come around him and say, look, Jesus, I know how you can get your followers back. I know how you can get people to like you and to follow you and to look up to you. And they say to him, you know, there's this big feast that's going to go on. There's this big like parade thing that's going to be happening. Why don't you go there? I think it was in Judea. They're like, why don't you go there and like show off and do all your, you know, like do all these miracles and show that, you know, who you are, and prove that you're the Son of God. And Jesus was like, no. He was like, I don't need to do that, because Jesus didn't need to prove himself to anyone. He knew he was the Son of God. He knew he was good enough. He's perfect, okay? But he wasn't, those people didn't understand that he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to put on a show. He didn't need to trick people. He didn't need to present himself that way, because he didn't need to show or prove anything, because he knew who he was. He knew who his identity was. What was his identity? He was the Son of God. He knew that. He wasn't doing things to prove to other people that he was good or that he was the Son of God. He was doing it because that was his destiny, that was his plan for, that's why God sent him. That was his purpose. And in our lives, you know, if we want to follow in the purpose and the destiny that's created for us and the things that we're meant to achieve, if we keep trying to push other things, it's not going to give us the satisfaction that you want. You know, it's like, say you really, really want something, you know, and you really want a job and you just want it so bad, and there's a lot of signs pointing at you saying that maybe this isn't the right job for you, but you just want it so bad, and all you care about is getting that job because you think, if I get that job, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be satisfied, I'm going to have money and success are going to make me happy. Because that's what you think, right? And you get that. But you don't get what you want out of it. You know, it's like musicians. If you've heard of the band Korn, maybe you haven't if you're like a bit younger, because they kind of really got big in like the 90s. But Korn, they're like a metal band, and one of the guys in it, Brian, his like stage name, whatever is Head, if you've heard of him, Brian Head Welsh. I really like this guy because I really like electric guitar and I love guitar, and he's a really good guitar player. But apart from that, I really like him as a person. And I've read his books and everything. There's a documentary called Loud Crazy Love, and in it, he said something very interesting. He said, and he says this all the time, he said that, you know, he was pushing for success. He wanted to be the best, right? Who doesn't? He wanted to be the best. He had that passion. He had that drive. He wanted to be the best guitar player. He wanted to be in the best band. And their band took off and went crazy, and they got to like #1. They had people everywhere saying, what do you want? We'll give it to you. You want drugs? We'll give it to you. You want money? We'll give it to you. You want girls? We'll give it to you. Seriously. They had everything that they could have ever wanted. And they got to the top, and he said, but when he got to the top, he felt so empty. And he was like, where do I go now? Because when you've reached that high level of success, and I can't even begin to fathom what that would be like, you know, to be in that position. But once you've reached that top, it's like there's nowhere else to go. You're only going to come back down. And then he said he got to the top and he realized that it didn't fulfill him, it didn't give him any satisfaction, and he actually felt more miserable. And people in the world, everybody's always like, well, why did this celebrity commit suicide? Why did this person take their life? You know, they had everything, and people just can't wrap their heads around it. But the reality is, if you don't have an identity and a sense of who you are, if you don't value yourself, if you don't think that you're good enough, you know, then you're not going to have that joy in your life, and you're not gonna feel fulfilled. If you're not doing the plan, like the thing that you really love doing, like your passion, if you're not doing that, if you're just doing something else because you think that's gonna make you happy, you're not gonna be fulfilled. And you know, as a person, like I have a relationship with God, and obviously, like I always ask God like what He wants for me first. But regardless, I want to say this, regardless of whatever you believe, like this isn't just if you believe in God or whatever it is, okay? This can be for anyone. If you're doing something that you're not passionate about, you're not going to be happy. That's just a fact, you know? And that message that I listened to this morning was very impactful, because I realized, you know, why am I performing? Why am I trying to get other people's attention? Why am I, you know, trying to do this and trying to overcompensate? And I was just thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, it's true, because when you're doing that, it really is kind of a signal that maybe your heart isn't in the right spot, and maybe you are just trying to prove to other people, you know, and it's hard too when you have people in your life who maybe have told you that you weren't good enough. Maybe you've had people in authority, maybe you've had family members or parents or people who are meant to encourage you and uplift you and say that you're amazing and say that, you know, you're a great person. If you haven't had that, you're definitely gonna struggle with that area, you know. And me personally, I've been so blessed. I've had so many people in my life who have always said to me, you're doing great, you're amazing. Even when I didn't feel like that, I've had people constantly, my family, my parents, friends, just people in my life who've always said to me that they love me, they care about me, you know, that I have a really great future and that I'm going to do great things. And you know, a lot of the times I didn't believe it, and I struggled to believe that. But I've always had people saying that, and when people are saying that to you constantly, it plants that seed of hope in you, and it plants that encouragement. So even when you feel so bad, and you feel like you're at your lowest, there's always that little thing in you that says, that kind of comes back to the words that people have spoken to you. And it's sad, but a lot of people haven't had that. And I'm really sorry that if you haven't had that, because everyone deserves to be told that they're good enough. Everyone deserves to be told that they're loved, that they're created for a reason. Everyone deserves to, you know, have people come around them and support them. But sadly, you know, a lot of people haven't had that. And it's something that I don't take for granted, because I think I used to. As a kid, I would take it for granted. And now looking around, I realize that that is something so important, because the people around you in your life affect you, and they affect your identity. If you're hanging around people who treat you like trash, and you're constantly being around people who tell you horrible things and don't care about you, why are you doing that? Why are you hanging around with people who make you feel like crap? Why are you in a relationship with somebody who abuses you? Why are you in a relationship with somebody who doesn't love you and care about you? Why? Well, the reason is because we aren't, you know, I had this in a show, this is not my quote, but this person was saying in this TV show, this random TV show I was watching the other day, and there was this guy, and he was like saying to this teacher, I don't understand why this person in my life keeps going back to this abusive relationship, and they don't, you know, they're doing all this stuff, and he just didn't understand. And the teacher said to him, you only accept the love you think you deserve. So if you don't think you deserve people to love you, if you don't think you're worth anything, if you don't think you're important, then you're gonna attract people into your life that treat you bad. You're gonna have the same type of relationship. Why do people get stuck in abusive, bad relationships, one after the other? And for the outside people, it's very frustrating, because you're like, oh, why do you keep choosing these bad people? They're not good for you. But you know why? Because that person doesn't think they're worth anything. So they are letting themselves be treated like crap, like trash, because they don't think that they're important, and they don't think they're worth anything better. And I want to say, like, if that is you, you are worth something. And whether maybe nobody's ever told you that in your whole life, but you are worth something. It doesn't matter what people have said. It doesn't matter what parents have said, what authority has said, what, you know, people in the media have said. You as a person, you are enough. Just for you being you, you are enough. And this can be so hard to believe, but whether or not you believe it, I want to tell you that even though I don't know you, you are enough. And you are created for such amazing things, and you may just not see it right now. And I think sometimes when you're in such hard situations, and you're just trying to prove yourself to people all the time, and you're just trying to perform and prove to everyone that you're good enough, you do lose who you are, and you kind of end up thinking, why am I sacrificing all these things? Why am I giving in to all this stuff that isn't really me? And it's because you're trying to get that approval. When we don't need others' approval, you know. And personally, for me, I can be happy with who I am, and I can be satisfied and feel good enough, not because I have, you know, having people in my life tell me that is great and that encourages me. But the real reason why I don't feel, you know, I feel like I am good enough, and I feel like, you know what, I am enough, and it doesn't matter what I achieve, is because I know at the end of the day, if everybody left me in my life, I know if I had no family, if I had no friends, if I had absolutely nothing, I know that God still has a plan for me, and that He still loves me, and that He values me. And that means I'm enough, because He values me, and because Jesus loved me so much, and He loves you so much, that He died for us, so that we didn't have to compete and try to prove ourselves worthy, you know. And that's just my belief. I never want to push things on people. I always say to people, I'm not religious. Religion is just a whole set of rules and regulations that you have to follow, and I think that's absolute crap. Okay, I don't believe that. I believe in just having a personal relationship with God, with Jesus, and, you know, just spending my life with Him, and always having Him, trying to put Him as number one. And it can be so hard when you have so many pressures in life, like, you know, social media, like your family, like other people's expectations, and people are screaming at you of what to do. There's so many people in your life that maybe have good intentions, that are trying to show you what to do. Just do this and it will fix your issues. Just do this and it'll, you know, you'll be happier, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you just have to be happy with where you are. Even if you're on a really crap time, I found that sometimes you just have to learn to accept and just say, look, this is what's happening at the moment. And recently I've been doing DBT. I've just been doing the workbook myself, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy. If you don't know what that is, you can just Google it. But the first kind of bit was talking about radical acceptance. And I was doing an exercise in it, and I realized that sometimes you just have to accept where you are in life and stop pushing and trying to make things happen. You just have to sit back and go, okay, this is what's happening right now, and I unfortunately can't really seem to change this, and nothing is changing right now, so I just need to wait and things will change. And sometimes it's very frustrating. I know personally, I'm very impatient. I get really frustrated when things just aren't changing, and I always want to fix things, and I'm always like, what am I doing wrong, and overthink everything. And sometimes I think you just need to be happy with the place you're in your life. Whether it's good or bad, you just have to say, look, this is where I am, and I'm just gonna have to be happy with this right now. You know, things may not be that great, maybe things aren't working out, but I guarantee you, later on you'll look back and you'll see how everything was connected and how everything joined. And I'm not really one of those people who say everything happened for a reason. The reason why I say that, I don't really believe that, is because some people go through some really horrible things. The really horrible things that we go through, they weren't intended for us. You know, like, that shouldn't have happened to you. And I'm really sorry if you've been through things that were unfair and that weren't supposed to happen to you. I'm sorry. And I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, because that means that every horrible thing that was unfair and unjust, that you may have had nothing to do with, but it was forced upon you, or it's, you know, the consequences of other people's actions, that wasn't supposed to happen. I'm just going to say that, because I get kind of annoyed when people say everything happens for a reason. Because no, there are some really horrible things that are very unjust and cruel that weren't supposed to happen. That wasn't fair. That wasn't fair that you went through that. That wasn't fair, and that wasn't meant for your life. That wasn't supposed to happen to you. And I'm really sorry if it did. So I'm always that person who, I think we can learn something from every opportunity. I totally believe that. I think we can always find a good thing in every situation. You can always learn a lesson. But just because you're going through a bunch of terrible things doesn't mean that is who you are. And if we get hung up on the whole fact that everything happens for a reason, then you're kind of accepting that, oh, all these bad things were meant for me, when they weren't. Probably not explaining it very well. But anyway, this video is like turned to be really long, so I'm really sorry. But yeah, like, just the main points I was trying to say was that, you know, I think we all need to kind of slow down, take a look at ourselves, and think about why we're performing. Why do we want to be the best? Why do we want, you know, it's good to have motivation and have goals. That's great. Like, I'm not saying don't have goals, don't have motivations, but I'm just saying that I think sometimes we probably should stop and think, who am I doing this for? Am I doing these things because it makes me happy? Am I doing these things because I think that that's something that I'm really passionate about? Or are we doing it because of the pressures of other people? And where are we finding acceptance? Where are we finding our identity? Who are we basing our worth upon? Are we basing it on other people? Are we looking at you know, other people's expectations to fill us and to, you know, determine who we are as a person? Because if you are, I really don't. I've been there, done that, and it doesn't give you happiness. It won't satisfy you. So I hope that you guys got something out of this video. Just something that I thought was really important, and I just wanted to talk about, because that message really actually gave me a bit of a slap in the face, because I realized, what am I actually doing? Like, you know, in regards to my business and just for some other things in my life, I actually really thought about this, and I was like, wow, that's actually really important, and it's so relevant in this day and age with social media and with celebrities and just with this constant, like, chaos around us. I thought it was something really interesting to think about. So I'd love to hear your comments if you want to, like, say what you think about this, if you've had any experience with, you know, just like the pressures of social media and how, you know, other people may have affected you or made you feel. I'd definitely love to hear that. If you ever want to chat, I always have my Instagram and everything open. You can totally message me. I'll always respond. I'm always here for you, and thank you for watching the video. If you like this type of videos, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button, and I hope to see you in my next video.